Hello everybody, it's another fun Friday. Yeah, I know, 2 in a month. Shocking, isn't it? But believe it or not, this is Fun Friday isn't about dystopian wars. I am still painting some more models, but this one in particular is not. So, what is it about, Trek? Well, you probably might have guessed from the title, something of a giveaway there, that this is about ship versus ship combat. Now, at some point I actually do have to do a proper video, Wednesday video, that discusses why doing 1v1 ship v ship is actually quite difficult. But, there's many ways that you can try and do it, and one of the ways is chuck them into a simulation and see what the simulation does, because theoretically speaking, the simulation shouldn't be too biased. It's possible for a game to be somewhat biased if obviously the developers have hard-coded the ships in and they have their own biases, but in particular, the game we're talking about, Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, you have to build the ships yourself. So it's much, much harder to code in any kind of bias to, ships that you have no idea are ever going to be created until the players come up with them. So a few weeks ago, a chap by the name of Brother Monroe, he has a little YouTube channel where he does a lot of Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought stuff, contacted me. He's a subscriber, and he said, well, could you give me a hand sorting out some ship versus ship? And I thought, yeah, why not? The idea is basically to let player versus AI, AI versus player, and AI versus AI fight it out in a series of divisions. Each division is roughly divided so that the combatants are approximately fair. So you're not going to put sort of Iowa up against a Congo in the first division, because that would be silly. So Iowa will fight things like Yamato or Vanguard and things like that. But it's an ongoing project. We're having fun doing it, and we are having quite a bit of a interesting time coming up against some of the limitations of the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought's engine. Now, those of you who have followed the channel for a while will be aware I did a few streams looking at Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts way back, even before they had all forward gun hulls possible. And I was fairly impressed because I went through and recreated a number of historical warships and got something that was pretty close to it, both in terms of capability and in terms of displacement. So, thumbs up to that. And, of course, they've patched it and edited it and made the game better, so now you can do things like all-forward gunships. But there are still some limitations which we came across. Certain historical weapons configurations, like 130mm quad turrets for the French, don't exist yet in the game. I'm sure they will in the future. And the hull form is dictated largely by a basic hull form, which then extends with displacement, so you can't necessarily get the exact hull profile, and that can lead to some issues with the placement of guns. And although superstructures are accurate, surprisingly accurate, to the point that immediate visual reference can be made, of course they're not going to model every single ship superstructure historically in the game. There has to be some kind of generic but similar to bridges. So you're never going to come up with something that is exactly 100% to spec, at the moment at least, what a historical ship was, but you can get close enough for government work, and that's what we did. So we've started off with Division 4. So this will be going up on Brother Monroe's channel mostly, looking at the builds with me narrating and sometimes scratching over ship plans and through various documents trying to figure out where a certain gun should go. And it should be quite entertaining, because we kind of kludged together a bunch of ships that are somewhat recognisable. So, what's the first division? Well, we're actually starting with the last division, Division 4, where we stuck the refitted Andreadorias, the Congo-class battlecruisers, the Renown-class battlecruiser in its Renown form, Scharnhorst, and the Dunkirk-class battlecruisers in the form of Strasbourg. The idea effectively being that we're going to try and build each ship to either its actual 1945 configuration or what its most likely 1945 configuration would have been. And you'll see more details on that as that video series gets released. But that's a quick intro, literally a 5-minute intro actually, looking at the timestamp. So what is the point of this video other than to let you know that that's happening over there? Well, this is also a kind of a predictions video to see how I think, based on historical facts, how this league should shake out. And then we'll see what the game kicks out and see whether or not that matches up with my predictions, because I don't know at this point what the game's going to do. So, as I said, we've got Andrew Doria, Congo, Renown, Scharnhorst and Strasbourg. Now, I'll say straight up front, I think Andrew Doria is probably going to end up at the bottom of the pile. It's the slowest of all 5 ships in question. It's not got particularly brilliant protection. Now, to be fair, a number of others don't have particularly brilliant protection either. In fact, the only ones that you could realistically say have anything close to decent protection against the kind of shells that are being chucked around are Scharnhorst and Strasbourg. But the thing with Andrew Doria is that it is very much a World War I battleship that's been souped up. Congo and Renown are, of course, World War I battle cruisers that have been souped up, and Scharnhorst and Strasbourg are small battleships of the 1930s time period. And the other problem with Andrew Doria, apart from being a little bit slower, is that her guns are also the weakest. 12.6-inch reboard guns, whereas you're looking at 14-inch guns on Congo, 15-inch on Renown, 13-inch warp speed cannons on Strasbourg. Scharnhorst does have 11-inch guns, that is true, but they are modern 1930s 11-inch guns, not kind of warmed over 1900s 12-inch. So, broadly speaking, Andrew Doria doesn't have a tremendous amount of firepower going for it. It is the slowest, and its armour is not really going to help it all that much, especially given that everything bar Scharnhorst is carrying bigger guns than it is. So I do think it's going to place the worst. Now, looking at the other 4, it could be a bit of a difficult call to make. I think probably placing 4th, you're going to find Congo. It's a bit of a tiebreaker down there for 4th place. But I think Congo's probably just going to end up down there for a couple of reasons. One, its armour is the weakest of all the ships. So even in its modernised 1945 type state, it really just doesn't have the protection. It's got a reasonable turn of speed, but so did the other 3 that are contending for the top spots. And its firepower is okay, 8 14-inch guns, but nothing spectacular to write home about. Congo's hull, as you'll see in the video where we actually build the thing, is also a little bit skew-if in the game, but my prediction would be in real life, if these ships were to fight it out, Congo would probably comfortably beat the Andrew Doria, but it's not going to stand a tremendous chance against any of the others in a standard daylight engagement. Now, 2nd and 3rd, I think it's a bit of a tie between Scharnhorst and Renown. Now, on the one hand, Renown does have much bigger guns, can hit a lot harder, and of course historically we have things like the battle or the action of Lofoten, where both Scharnhorst and Gneisenau took on Renown and they ended up running away. But if you're looking at it on a purely on paper exercise, because remember this is a simulation, so it's not taking into account things like the fact that Renown in particular was a crack gunnery ship, and the differences between crews, etc. But on paper, Renown's armour has some protection against Scharnhorst guns. Scharnhorst, however, has 50% more guns, and Scharnhorst has one of the heaviest armour schemes in this particular league, so it can take some 15-inch gunfire, not on tremendous amount, but it does have a degree of protection. So in a fight between a Renown and Scharnhorst, all other things being equal, as opposed to a historical Renown versus Scharnhorst, the on-paper version, I'm kind of tossing a coin. Obviously, as mentioned, in the actual World War II reality of things, when you factor in the radar and fire control systems, the crew, the sheer luck that both ships seem to enjoy to varying degrees, I think Renown definitely has an edge in World War II historical reality, so perhaps Renown should be in the second spot with Scharnhorst trailing just in third. But how that's going to shake out in a simulation where many of those factors don't exist is going to be quite interesting. And then that leaves the top spot, rather unintuitively, going to Strasbourg. And I do think that Strasbourg, when I say unintuitively, I mean it doesn't really take much of a guess. Strasbourg, though, I think both on paper, obviously not in real life because she ended up in Toulon for most of the war, but on paper and realistically, Strasbourg really does have the advantage here. She was a modified form of the Dunkirk, specifically designed to deal with the fact that the Scharnhorsts were being built. She has, quite heavy firepower. She's got 8 guns, so she's got 2 more than Renown, 1 less than Scharnhorst, equal to the Congo. And those 13-inch guns are pretty darn quick. They've got some pretty nice armor penetration characteristics for what they are. And because we're looking at this Division 4, it's a mixed grab bag of things. No one is running around with a modern high-velocity Bismarck or Littorio 15-inch gun or a 16-inch 50 or anything. So Strasbourg's 13 inches are pretty good armament for this particular fight. And of course, because they're all forward, she can bring her entire broadside to bear whilst charging the enemy down, closing the range, which is going to help her dictate the range somewhat. Her armor protection is pretty good as well, upgraded from the Dunkirks, so she's going to stand up to a fair bit of punishment from most incoming projectiles. The only ones where she's, I think, possibly going to struggle a bit is Renown, because of the 15-inch guns, but at the same time, obviously, as I say, she can remain somewhat angled, and she has 2 more guns than Renown, and Renown's armor isn't going to help her all that much against 13-inch gunfire. So my loose prediction for this upcoming Division 4 League is going to be Strasbourg's going to place top, probably followed by Renown, then Scharnhorst, then Congo, and then Andrea Doria. And during this little narration, you'll have been able to see in the background some of the screenshots of the designs that we cooked up in the game for the ships in question. And as I said, they're not 100% perfect because of various limitations with the game engine, but hopefully when I've said these are the ships we're talking about, and then you've been seeing the ships on screen, hopefully you will have at least had a bit of a twig of recognition. Oh yeah, that does look pretty much like insert ship name here. And there are going to be patches. In fact, there's a fairly big one coming fairly soon for Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, and when those patches go up, we are going to get more access to more tools. So expect Divisions 3, 2 and 1 to probably be even closer to historical reality than this division is. But nonetheless, it's been fun so far, and this is my little heads up to you of what I'm doing with Brother Monroe, and some predictions for what's going to shake out. And we'll see what happens when he's run all the battle simulations and how the league placement table compares to my prediction.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.